Hello guys, welcome to the first in a series of Mass Effect Andromeda Multiplayer build videos, and we're going to be starting things off with the ANGARA Avenger. The Avenger is a highly mobile class in the sense that it can utilize the ability Avenger Strike to pretty much cover any amount of distance possible as long as you can obtain a highlighted target, as well as being able to group stealth with the stealth grid ability, all in all making the class very effective at controlling the battlefield by being able to pick and choose your targets, as well as making short work of the objectives due to being able to cloak yourself and allies when disabling a device or capturing a location. There are two recommended styles of play for this character, one being a very up close and personal shotgun melee sort of playstyle, and the other, which is my preference, a more ranged sniper sort of style, using the mobility more as a utility to move to positions when I want to. Either way though, the build is pretty much the same, so if you're into shotguns, the build should still be pretty much the same for you. So first let's take a quick look at the paths I've chosen, and then I'll give a detailed analysis of why I've taken them, before going through the general playstyle of the class and how I like to do things. So real quick, for those of you that are impatient, bioelectric defense, weapons training, and Avenger Strike. Now obviously how many points you have to spend, it depends on your level and how many ranks you have in the class, so I'll go through what I believe to be the best priority order in what to pick up, and I would personally start with getting at least 5 ranks in Avenger Strike. This is due to the fact that Avenger Strike is the main feature of the class, it's what everything else revolves around, so you're going to want it to be pretty strong as early as possible in order to do everything else efficiently. Okay, so we're going to start with a 20% reduction to the cooldown of Avenger Strike. The other option is for a short damage over time effect to the target after we land it, but the reason we're going to take reduction is because anything we land this ability on is going to need to die immediately, either through direct melee damage or shooting the enemy upon arrival. In many cases, you're going to want to cast Avenger Strike again soon after arriving at the location, and with that in mind, a 20% reduction in cooldown is always going to be useful. Next, we're going to take a raw 40% damage increase to the ability. Having the enemies around the target do less damage is okay, I guess, but unless this ability does enough damage to take down wherever you're landing it on immediately, it's kind of pointless to begin with. If you have all the abilities and equipment I have when running this build, you'll one-shot most unshielded enemies on silver and do enough damage on gold to follow up with a quick 1 or 2 shots to finish them. Without maximising the initial damage on Avenger Strike, you're going to find yourself in a lot of trouble if you've just teleported into an enemy's face and it still has most of its health, so take the damage. Now we can come back to the 6th trait later, but in the interest of priority order, we're going to move on to bioelectric defenses. And as you can see, whilst it boosts our defenses, it also increases our melee damage, and Avenger Strike, our main ability, goes by melee damage. Again, you're going to want to start by going 5 ranks in, and the first choice you have to make is only a difference between whether you're playing as a ranged offense, i.e. a sniper, or close quarters, i.e. shotgun. If you were to be running with a shotgun, personally I would choose evasion. This is because you're going to be spending most of your time on foot, moving around, getting in close, and running out of combat. For that reason, you're going to benefit far more from the increased movement speed and the damage resistance when evading. For someone like me though, who is mostly going to be bunkered with a sniper, you're not going to be benefiting from that at all, as most of the mobility you're utilizing will be coming from your Avenger Strike. For that reason, I take regeneration, as I will be spending much more time behind cover than a shotgun user, which will allow me to benefit from the fast acting shield regeneration, etc. Next, everything listed here is nice, really nice, but as we've already established, without maximizing the damage on Avenger Strike, the entire build falls apart, so of course we're taking the 50% extra melee damage. Again, we can come back to this later, but for now we're going to prioritize our weapon damage, etc. And the reason we're prioritizing it this way is because we're taking into account the fact that whilst you level, you're going to be starting off from bronze, working your way up to gold. And so dumping all your stats into defense at the start isn't really necessary because you're not going to be playing on the high difficulties till later, so that stuff can wait till later. Anyway, weapon training. Now for our first choice, it might seem a little bit contradictory, but if you notice, every other melee and power boost we've had were sitting between 40 and 50% as opposed to this weak 10% increase. Consider that your main source of damage is going to be coming from your weapon, and the fact that you can follow up your Avenger Strike with your weapon once you go in. Over the course of a game, you're going to be seeing a far bigger profit from 8% increase to weapon damage over a weak 10% damage to your powers. Keep in mind, one of your other powers does no damage at all, i.e. stealth grid, and the other one, your sticky grenade, you literally don't use with this build as you won't be putting any points into it. So weapon damage here. Next, ammo and targeting, because useful, as opposed to, yeah, no thanks. Now, honestly, this one really is a 50-50 choice. Power Specialist overall offers more, and to be honest, in most cases I would probably recommend it. However, as a sniper, there is really nothing worse than hitting an enemy on the final shot in your magazine, seeing them with the tiniest sliver of health whilst you have to reload, knowing that if you just had 10% more damage you would have killed them, and the idea of that kind of seduces me into taking more weapon damage. But honestly, I'll leave this one entirely up to you. Keep in mind the +1 to all power cells extends to both your other abilities, one of which is Stealth Grid, which is very important utility, so honestly it's probably the smarter choice. Finally, we could start maxing out the other trees. So if we go back into Avenger Strike, for the rank 6, this one might initially seem very tempting. Getting an extra power cell back for your Stealth Grid is pretty damn awesome. However, look at what it says, killing an enemy with this power. Now, on bronze and silver difficulty this might be happening quite often, but once we get to gold difficulty this is going to happen far less often, if at all. Like, yeah, sometimes you're going to heavily weaken a target, then go in with the Avenger Strike and finish them off, but for the vast majority of times you're going to be quick put into an enemy far away without much thought to their health bar until you get there, and when you do, they're not going to die from the initial damage. This is where the other trait comes in: increased damage to enemy shields and synthetic enemies, stuns targets and leaves targets primed for combo detonations. So it will break shields, it will do more damage to synthetics. Now that means a whole faction when against the remnants and hydras when against the outlaw faction. It stuns targets, which is not only amazing for CCing targets like Ascendants before they have a chance to reapply their defensive shield, but it will also prime the target for combo detonations. That is a hell of a lot of buffs to an ability, so in my opinion it's no contest, take Disrupting Strike. Now for the 6th rank in bioelectric defenses, we're not going to be taking close quarters momentum for the same reason stated before. We're not really going to be killing much of our melee, especially in quick succession. Our melee is mostly just going to be for doing the big burst of damage on our Avenger Strike before we finish the enemy off, either with another quick melee or in most cases a shot or two from our weapon. So you're going to see far more benefit from Bioelectric Ward, which is just going to give you and your squad mates a little more defensive resistance when things get heated. With whatever points you have left, you're going to want to put them into Stealth Grid, and if you have more points than me, eventually advance you into Radius, Duration and Ambush Grid. A quick look at the gear before we talk about the actual playstyle, and I'm running with a rank 10 Vanquisher, and we won't say any more about that because we don't want it to get nerfed. And most importantly, for my sidearm, I am running with a Talon. You don't have to run with a Talon, but there is a very good reason why I am. It's pretty much a shotgun in the form of a pistol, which makes it an ideal secondary to complement the sniper. I equip a melee damage mod on it, and what I try to do is switch this when making a pre-planned Avenger Strike, so I'm not only getting the benefit of the extra initial damage on the strike, but I can then follow up with 1 or 2 quick blasts to put them down. It's also great for when you're getting flanked, as you can quickly switch to it and put down most regular enemies with a couple of headshots. Then the most important piece of gear is of course the Juggernaut shield, because look at the second buff. 75% increased melee damage. Now if you don't have this item you might struggle on gold, I'm not sure, but I'd say it's definitely worth waiting for this item to come back into the store rotation before playing a melee class, if it's even that way. I'm not sure if it's always in the store because I picked it up pretty early. Either way, you're going to want to wait for this item for sure. Right, now that's the build out of the way, let's jump into some playstyle tips, and I'm mostly going to base those around Avenger Strike and Stealth Grid, as everything outside of those abilities is basically what you would be doing on any other class. So regarding Avenger Strike, there are a couple of things you need to know. You can travel any distance with it as long as you were able to see a highlighted reticle around the enemy. That means you can essentially cross the entire map if you can get that reticle to appear. It works from behind cover, including enemies in rooms. It works in the air, so you can literally teleport into the sky if you wanted to. You can fall or jump off a cliff and teleport back to the map if you wanted to. Keeping that mechanic in mind is important for really getting the most out of the utility of the ability. I've had situations where I've been surrounded, my life bar has been flashing red, I've been able to teleport to an enemy far away behind cover, kill that enemy, and then I am safely far away behind cover. Which brings me to the next point of interest regarding the ability. It has an invincibility frame. This means whilst you're inside the casting animation, you are invincible. This means you can use the ability as a panic button when you're about to die, and for the duration of the animation you will not take the fatal damage you were about to take, giving you the chance to escape to somewhere safer. I've been in situations where I've been pinned down on top of a roof on wave 7, on the other side of the map fighting hydras with all the enemies crawling onto my position with like 8 seconds to get to the extraction point, and I've been able to just dive off the roof like something out of an action movie and teleport to the enemy closest to the extraction point, pop a stealth grid for everyone and get the full extraction. So it's pretty epic. The final thing to mention about Avenger Strike is that it locks the enemy you're targeting into the animation as well. This means for the duration of the animation you can freeze an enemy in their tracks, effectively acting as CC. So whilst it's great for stopping an enemy that is about to escape behind cover, it can also save a teammate that is about to get executed, or, and most amazingly, as mentioned before, can completely destroy ascendants due to the fact that you can lock them out of their defensive shield. My little strategy is to break the orb, reload, land a couple of headshots on the ascendant with my sniper, then Avenger Strike, follow up with 2 more shots and a melee. If you've taken the ability Disrupting Strike like suggested, all of this will synergize together well enough for you to be able to take down ascendants by yourself within one window on gold. Now regarding your stealth grid ability, it's pretty simple. You can and on occasion will be forced into using it as a last ditch resort to save yourself, but really you're going to want to try and save it as much as possible for specific situations. Those situations are obviously going to be things like objectives, which are honestly a breeze with the ability, and I don't think I've ever failed an objective round whilst playing with this class. But also situations like reviving teammates in the middle of a firefight or moving your squad as a unit to a better location if you're well organized. And I always make sure on wave 7 to have at least one cell saved for the extraction point. Being able to cloak all your teammates with 5 seconds to go, mitigating the chance someone is going to go down at the very last second, is such a satisfying ability to cast or have cast on you at the very end of a hard fought game. So try to save your cells, guys. And I think that's pretty much everything regarding the Angara Avenger. I'll probably be covering the other Angara, the Insurgent, for my next video. But if there are any other classes you want me to prioritize in the series, do let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, feel free to leave a like as it helps me out. And if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing for more Mass Effect Andromeda content coming soon. Alright guys, until next time, take care.